I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is Sarah Boone and the Suitcase murder trial. Now, I've covered several murders involving suitcases. In all those situations, the suitcase was used to dispose of dismembered body parts. This case is different. Here, the suitcase is alleged to be the actual murder weapon. Here's the story. February 24th, 2020, Sarah Boone and her boyfriend, Jorge Torres, were spending an evening together at Sarah's home. The couple had a bit of a tumultuous past. Both had been arrested on domestic violence charges, but they always seemed to get back together. On this night, the two were drinking. But what happened next is almost inexplicable. George got inside of a suitcase that was then zipped shut. Why and exactly how he got into the suitcase is not 100% clear. But what is clear is that at one point, he wanted to get out. He pleaded with Sarah to open the suitcase, but she refused. Instead, she turned on the video camera on her phone and started to record as George begged for his life. Still, she refused to unzip the suitcase. Then the following morning, she eventually called 911. She said she and George were playing hide and seek, and George ended up in the suitcase. When police responded, they found George dead. Sarah has been charged with second-degree murder, but now she claims she was the victim and is claiming battered spouse syndrome. What happened inside that apartment, and why was George in that suitcase? We've been talking about this story for quite some time. The public reaction is strong, and it always comes back to that image. And I'm going to show you that image right now, so I wanted to warn you. Some people find this difficult to watch. But it's the video that Sarah Boone, the first video that Sarah Boone recorded. And you'll see the suitcase. You'll hear Jorge Torres's voice. He's inside that suitcase. You'll hear Sarah Boone's voice. She's the one holding the camera. Let's watch.
Sarah.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
You.
Sarah.
You.
Sarah.
Stupid.
Sarah.
That's my name. Don't wear it up.
Sarah. I can't breathe, babe. Seriously.
Yeah, that's when you do when you choke me.
Sarah. 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 Sarah, I can't breathe, babe.
That's on you.
Sarah, I can't breathe.
It's on you.
Sarah.
Real or ransom. I want to get video for it extra. Because I got this.
Sarah.
Real or ransom.
Sarah. Sarah, I can't breathe, babe.
Oh. That's what I feel like when you chewing on me.
Sarah.
You.
Breathe, Sarah.
Yeah. You should probably shut the up.
Sarah.
Shh.
That's just one of the videos, and that's just a couple of minutes. Now, obviously, that's not the entire time that George is inside that suitcase, which brings me to my first question, and I think it'll be an important one at the trial. How long was George in the suitcase? When did he get in? When was it finally unzipped? Joining me Court TV digital content producer who's been covering this story inside and out. Lauren Silver is with us, and forensic pathologist Dr. Priya Banerjee. Thank you both for being here. Lauren, I'll begin with you, and I want to put this up on the screen. We have somewhat of a timeline here of what's going on, but I want you to kind of fill in the blanks. It seems that he's in the suitcase by 11:12 or so. Falls
exactly.
So what are they doing that night at 11:12 that gets him into the suitcase, and how precise is that time?
So we know that their evening starts at sometime around 4 p.m. when the two of them are at home. They're painting pictures, doing puzzles, and it starts with sharing a bottle of wine. At some point, they decided to play hide and seek. Sarah hid upstairs. She says George never came to look for her, so she went downstairs and found him. And at that point, they thought it'd be funny to zip him into the suitcase. Now, where we're getting that 11:12 time is that's the first video recording that you just saw that was on Sarah's phone. So at that point, he's already in the suitcase and saying that he's having trouble breathing.
And then eventually, somehow, some way, she leaves downstairs, goes upstairs, and goes to sleep. We get to the next morning. What's the time frame here? Is she finding him early in the morning, mid-morning, late morning?
She says she went up, went to sleep. She assumed that he would find his own way out of the suitcase. So she says she was woken up at about 11 a.m. by her phone ringing over and over again. She assumed it was her ex-husband, looked around and realized, I don't see George. So she went downstairs looking for him, and it's at that point that she realized he was in the suitcase. He was unresponsive. She couldn't wake him up. And her immediate response was to call her ex-husband.
So I'm doing the math as you're describing all this. Like, it seems at a minimum, it's 11 hours and 48 minutes. All right, Dr. Priya Banerjee, how long could someone survive in a suitcase like that? And is there any way to tell with any precision? Is it a ballpark? And what would it be like for that amount of time for George Torres?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me, Dr. Banerjee? We're having some trouble, obviously, with Dr. Banerjee hearing me. So, Lauren, as we get back to the suitcase and the time frame, let's get back to that morning. What's her story about what she does when she realizes that he's in the suitcase? I've got to think that she unzips it, right?
So ostensibly she unzips it, realizes she cannot wake him up, and this is at 11 o'clock in the morning. Her first response is to call her ex-husband. So she called her ex-husband. Her ex-husband came over. She insisted he come over. He also saw that George was unresponsive and said they needed to call 911. And then he went outside and waited until the police arrived.
That is
so I don't know how long it took him to get there. Police arrived at 1 o'clock.
And so police aren't there till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And at a minimum, I mean, the latest that he could have gotten in there was 11:12 at night. To me, this is a big piece of the story, a big piece of the case, because you're talking about, okay, you're playing hide and seek, you know, things go awry, whatever. This is overnight. This is through the morning into the afternoon that George Torres is inside that suitcase. You know, the other question a lot of people have had is about, oh, how does he even get in there? But my understanding, George Torres was, he wasn't a huge man. I mean, he was relatively small. He was thin, not super tall. So in terms of his size, if you had to describe him, Lauren, or have they given a weight and a height in some of the documents? Do we know that?
I haven't seen it. I'm not great with those numbers, and I can't say that I've ever tried to put humans into a suitcase, so I don't know how well or how badly you would fit. But what Sarah does tell the police is that he got in willingly. They were laughing about it, and that Sarah zipped him up. But 2 of his fingers were sticking out of the suitcase, and they're having trouble getting them in. And she noted that the handle on the zipper was broken, and they were able to zip it closed with a paper clip. So it was a broken suitcase. The zipper was broken, but she still maintained he would find his own way out.
All right, Dr. Priya Banerjee, back with us. The question I have for you, how long could he survive in that suitcase with it zipped shut? We've got this seemingly 12, potentially 12 plus hours that he's in there, but how long would it take for him to no longer be able to survive?
Well, like Lauren said, it's not an experiment we run in any kind of way, with real people. He does look thin, and obviously he was able to fold up. I don't expect that to be a roomy suitcase. And why I say that is your breathing is dependent on your chest and belly, right, rising and falling, so being able to take deep breaths. And if you're scrunched forward or folded into a suitcase, at that point, your neck, everything is scrunched, right? So it doesn't even have the room to expand. And then someone's going to get real tired, right? Between the stress of being in there, using up energy. And then this doesn't seem like a thin cloth. It looks like a more rugged, even though the zipper's broken. So it's not going to be so breathable that oxygen's going to get in. So I'm treating it as sort of a closed space. And as soon as that air quality, the oxygen runs out, that's it. It's going to be minutes. We do know the physiology of someone being strangled. It's going to be longer than that because it's going to take longer for the air to, oxygen to run out. But it's not 11 hours. It's going to be soon. And it's traumatic to think that he's asking for help and he's laughing.
And is he realizing what's happening? Like, at what point?
Absolutely.
Does he realize that, oh my goodness, this could be the end?
Well, I think it's sort of a slippery slope, right? He's going to become more confused as the oxygen goes down, right? He's going to become weaker. So it's both expending energy and using up the oxygen. So that means he's going to become tired and his brain's going to become foggy. But she's also overtly laughing at him, right? So if he's not, maybe she even removed herself before he dies. That's even scarier. No one's there at the end. So I just think it's awful to think about.
Okay, we've got more to uncover, and in this case, coming up next, how did the suitcase flip over?
Sarah.
You
Sarah.
stupid.
Sarah.
That's my name. Don't wear it up.
Sarah.
Sarah Boone is charged with second-degree murder after her boyfriend suffocated inside of a suitcase.
He's in the suitcase still.
There are multiple domestic violence incidents.
You two hitting each other.
Sarah.
That's my name. Don't wear it up.
He's telling you, Sarah, I can't breathe.
Jorge Torres locked inside of a suitcase, begging for help.
I thought he was okay.
The Suitcase Murder Trial. Live coverage starting October 7th on Court TV.
We have a puzzle that we started in there.
Okay.
We've been doing art, trying to take the stuff off the wall to make new art put up there, like having a good time with one another. But we're drinking. We had a bottle of wine last night.
Okay.
So then it's like, we decided to play hide and seek, right?
Okay.
So he gets in the suitcase. The problem is I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
When did you do CPR?
This morning, when I found it.
Before you called?
Yes!
1 o'clock right now.
I tried. I was awake, but I actually got out of the bed at like 12:30ish, whatever. So I came downstairs, and I was like, oh, he's in the suitcase still. And that's when I found him, and I took him out. I tried doing CPR, and then I called him, and then I called you guys. And I fell asleep, so I don't know if he suffocated or like had an aneurysm or a heart attack or what.
What kind of medical conditions does he have?
None that I know of.
Nothing that you know of.
None
You
that
didn't
I
take
know
any
of.
medicine?
No.
No medical.
All we had was a bottle of wine.
Yeah, 12 hours locked inside of a suitcase, it's not going to be an aneurysm that's going to take your life. So I wanted to, I said there's more than one video. There's two videos. The second one's a little bit shorter, but I want to show you the second video as we watch it and listen to it. Take a close look, because it's interesting to see the positioning of the suitcase.
Sarah.
So the positioning of the suitcase, where it is on the floor, and you heard George was still alive there saying Sarah, again, pleading for his life. Let's take a look at the first video next to the second video. And the one thing that's clear to me is that it's not in the same position. It's moved. It's on its back on one, and then it's on the other side in the other picture. So it's not stationary. It's not like he's in the suitcase, he's locked in, and the suitcase stays there. Something else is at play here. Brings me to my next question, which is, how did the suitcase flip over? What's going on there? Is it him? Is she torturing him? What exactly is going on here that changes the position of that suitcase? With me, Court TV digital content producer Lauren Silver and forensic pathologist Dr. Priya Banerjee. Lauren, is there any evidence or statements relative to the positioning of the suitcase, because it's obviously on different sides, flipped over from video 1 to video 2?
Well, I combed through the documents, and she is very clear that she had been upstairs, the suitcase was downstairs, and they got in the suitcase downstairs. So she says the suitcase was always downstairs. There were some items in there that they wanted to unpack. They took them out. He got in, and then she zipped it up. The only mention of the movement, which is clear in the videos, is by the detectives themselves in the police report, noting on the video that in the first, the suitcase is facing downward, and you can see George is pressing from inside to get out, whereas the second one, it's facing upwards and is moved over to the left side of the living room. It doesn't offer any speculation as to how that happened, and as far as I know, Sarah Boone's never given any explanation.
Let me ask you, Dr. Priya Banerjee, I guess two scenarios. I want to talk about one scenario, though. If she is moving this suitcase around and rolling it around, would you expect to find any particular types of injuries during the autopsy that could perhaps be consistent with someone being locked in a suitcase and sort of tossed around in that suitcase?
Yeah, I don't know the exact model of the suitcase, but obviously that would be available to my colleagues. Oftentimes, I think you would look for marks, like whether it be contusion, so bruising from any sort of ribbing, handle, the wheels jutting in, any kind of hardware or outpouchings. Usually, I mean, it's pretty smooth, but you don't know how he's scrunched up in there. The one thing I want to point out, though, is if, and this is pure speculation, if it was twisted while he was alive, you can see that the zipper is now on the bottom, right? If we're moving from position 1 being on the right-hand side of my screen to the side, where it's flipped over on the rug now, the sort of lid, if you will, the zippered portion is now on the floor. That's impossible to extricate yourself from. Even if he's trying to undo the zipper, which is faulty in and of itself, you can see, how is he going to lift the lid off? Even if he's trying to kick, I don't think it's so small. A grown man, even if he's petite, is going to have a very difficult time getting out.
Now, there's a video posted on Deep Dive True Crime on YouTube, which appears to feature audio from a police interview with Sarah Boone's neighbor. Now, in it, he describes hearing a loud crash. Let's take a listen.
Do you recall hearing anything coming from apartment 3 while you were, after you had gotten home?
Around 10:30 or 11 o'clock, there was a very loud crashing sound where I believe, I'm not sure, I haven't been in their apartment like my roommate, but I believe it's the location of the staircase.
Okay, so
a little bit above.
A very loud, you said crashing sound?
Yeah, like it sounded like something had been like falling down the stairs. Because it started up high and then it ended low.
Okay, Dr. Priya Banerjee, if this suitcase with a man inside shut is rolled down a staircase, what type of injuries would you expect? And would you expect someone to still be conscious and be able to talk the way George was when he was begging for his life?
Sure. Just to clarify, are you asking whether he's already inside the suitcase as he goes down the stairs?
Oh, yeah, inside the suitcase being rolled down the stairs.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother can of worms. You can imagine as that tumbling motion is in there, he could bang around, and at least, I know it's a soft-sided suitcase, but there has to be some reinforcement frame in there. Those can add, bumps and bruises to him. So you should see some unexplained injuries in that source. I don't think there was any significant head trauma. From what I read about his cause of death, it was all related to the suffocation.
Dr. Priya Banerjee, Lauren Silver, thank you both so much. A lot more to uncover. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues. I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of Sarah Boone and the suitcase murder trial. The biggest issue for Sarah Boone is that she recorded herself taunting the victim, Jorge Torres, while he begged for his life from inside a suitcase. That inexplicable behavior is what she'll need to explain at trial. Here's the story. Sarah Boone and Jorge Torres were involved in an on-again, off-again tumultuous relationship filled with accusations of cheating and abuse. But on February 23rd, 2020, Sarah and George were together at her home, spending some time together drinking. But at some point that night, for some reason, George ended up locked inside of a suitcase while Sarah taunted him as she recorded a video. George tragically died, and now Sarah is facing murder charges, and there are still many lingering questions in this case about their relationship and exactly why Sarah didn't open that suitcase and just let George out. You know, sometimes going into a trial, we know some of the facts and we know a little bit about the defendant and what they may or may not have said. This case is different. Sarah Boone, from the 911 call to the interview/interrogation to the body cam video from the responding officers. We get to hear her tell her story. So I want to play for you right now body cam video from the next day when you have the responding officer speaking with Sarah Boone and trying to get an understanding of what's going on here. Let's take a look.
We have a puzzle that we started in there.
Okay.
We've been doing art, taking stuff off the wall to make new art put up there, like having a good time with one another. But we're drinking. We had a bottle of wine last night.
Okay. Fine.
So then it's like we decided to play hide and seek, right?
Okay.
So he gets in the suitcase. Okay.
Who is this guy?
That's my ex-husband, my former husband.
How did he lives here with you guys?
No, I called him over here.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
So then he came over here.
Here, let's talk in private, okay?
I called you guys. I tried giving him CPR. The problem is I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
When did you do CPR?
This morning, when I found it.
Before you called?
Yes!
1 o'clock right now.
I tried. I was awake, but I actually got out of the bed at like 12:30ish, whatever. So I came downstairs, and I was like, oh, he's in the suitcase still. And that's when I found him, and I took him out, and I tried doing CPR, and then I called him, and then I called you guys.
Did he get here before the fire department got here?
Who?
Your husband or your ex-husband?
Yes.
Okay. Where does he live at?
Right down the street.
Okay. So you were playing and who zipped him up in?
I did, but then I fell asleep.
Okay. You're okay. I wasn't here. I'm just trying to figure out what happened.
I fell asleep, so I don't know if he suffocated or like had an aneurysm or a heart attack or what.
What kind of medical conditions does he have?
None that I know of.
Nothing that you know of.
None
You
that I
didn't take
know
any
of.
medicine?
No. All we had was a bottle of wine. Literally, just a bottle of wine.
Okay.
Doing puzzle artwork. Then we decided to play hide and seek. That's all that happened.
So that's her story to the responding officer. But as I told you, that's not the only person she's talking to, and that her story or her statements are recorded. So that brings me to my next question, and it's an important one for the trial. Is Sarah Boone's story consistent? How many times have we seen cases where stories change and you hear those arguments in the courtroom that the story has evolved, the story has changed? Well, is her story consistent here with what happened? Joining me, Sarah Boone's new attorney, James Owens, is with us. And James, I understand you're preparing for trial, so I know there may be some things you can't talk about. I just want to let the viewers know that that's part of the deal when we bring on the lawyer. And thank you so much for being here. Also with us, Sarah's former defense attorney, Frank Bankowitz. So thank you both for being here. I do appreciate it. So I wanted to point out a couple of scenarios here and kind of get your take on it. And I'll begin with Sarah Boone talking about when she woke up. In one statement, Sarah woke up to her cell phone ringing multiple times around 1100 hours. This is in a police statement. She went downstairs, did not see George anywhere in the apartment. She then realizes that he was possibly still inside the suitcase. Sarah unzipped the suitcase and found George unresponsive and not breathing. However, on the body cam video, I want to play that so we can see if it's consistent with that version.
When did you do CPR?
This morning, when I found it.
Before you called?
Yes!
1 o'clock right now.
I was awake, but I actually got out of the bed at like 12:30-ish, whatever.
Okay, so James, is there a problem here in when she's getting up, or is this story consistent, at least this part, of when she gets up the following morning?
Thanks for having me, Vinnie. I don't think she had a watch on every time they're asking her questions about the times. I'm guessing, trying to give them an answer. So I don't think she should be looked down upon or considered that she's being evasive. I just think she didn't know the time frame.
Frank, from your perspective, is there a problem with her story, or is it something that is consistent enough for a jury to say, hey, every time she's telling the story, she's telling the same story about what happened that morning?
Well, I don't know that you can point to inconsistencies. I think it's, she's nervous, she's upset, she's basically kind of in a panic mode from what I see in the video and what I've seen in the past. And I don't know that you can point to those as being inconsistencies.
I want to show go to another issue here, which is the state of mind that night and what was happening. First, Sarah mentioned that she and George had been consuming alcohol during the night, and she went upstairs and passed out in her bed. But here she is in her interview talking about the same issue of drinking that night.
You told me but you told me on recording, that you were not drunk, he was not drunk, you guys were having a good time.
I can't get drunk. Number one, I do not want to get drunk. I don't like being non-compos mentis, having my wits about myself. I don't like feeling out of control.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm just saying, you're making it sound like he's a raging alcoholic today, and yesterday I was kind of asking you those questions, and you're like, a little defensive, like, no, we're not alcoholics.
I'm not.
We are not, you know. But you guys were both sober on Sunday, to your knowledge, because when I said you went and passed out, you were like, no, I didn't pass out, I just fell asleep. So now it's kind of like, what is it? Were you guys drinking and it got out of hand and it got physical?
No.
Or is it...
Sunday was one of the better days that we have had in quite some time.
So where were you guys at on drunkenness, not drunkenness on Sunday? You told us you weren't drunk.
No, I was not drunk.
Right.
I was not drunk.
Okay, James, from the beginning of my coverage of the story, that's always been a big issue because you listen to the voice, it sounds like she's under the influence. Is this a problem, the fact that she seems to be denying that they were drinking, denying that she was drunk, or was she actually sober that night?
No, I think they were drinking, and I think that earlier in the day, she to the Publix, which is a short distance away from their apartment. And then later on the day, he went a second time to Publix and got another bottle. So both of those and found in the garbage can, and the receipts were found somewhere in the apartment. So they were the only in the apartment that night. So they both consumed. So they did drink quite a bit.
Frank Mankiewicz, let me ask you about that issue of the drinking. Is that a huge problem for Sarah Boone that they were drinking, or does this, how does this play in front of a jury, and what does it mean?
Well, I would agree with Mr. Owens. They were drinking a lot. They consumed 2 full bottles of wine. They finished one and went out and bought a second and finished it. You know, whether in her mind at that point in time she can establish whether she was drunk or not, I think that's going to be a question for the jury. And they're going to have to look at all these tapes and, you know, and look at the actual facts as to what she did, where she had gone, and the fact that she, quote, fell asleep, to me is consistent with being passed out. But that's to me. Fortunately, I don't have to deal with that. Mr. Owens does.
Mr. Owens, number 9, will be representing Sarah Boone at the trial. This is a big one now. I think this is probably the biggest one if there is an inconsistency. From the beginning, it seems that Sarah was talking about playing a game of hide and seek, that George willingly got into the suitcase. Sarah zipped the suitcase up, and they were both laughing as she zipped him into the suitcase. But now I want to play the last time, James, you were in court talking about what Sarah's defense is going to be in this case.
Judge, the state doesn't know what happened the 2 minutes prior, or the minutes leading up to, the time leading up to the 2-minute video. The state doesn't know what happened after the 2-minute video. Only Sarah Boone can testify to that. That's for her to testify to.
Florida, the appellant has not cited, nor is our research located, any Florida case holding that evidence of battered spouse syndrome is admissible where the defendant claims accident rather than self-defense.
Who claims accident?
Are you claiming self-defense?
Yes.
Well, that's the first time that I've heard that.
Judge, I just mentioned it a while ago.
The word self-defense never came out of your mouth.
Judge.
Words that you believe that the state's position is, what you believe that they're going to try to establish, that we don't know what happened before and after that video. The words self-defense have never been uttered this afternoon.
Judge, for the record, we're claiming self-defense. We're utilizing the battered spouse syndrome in conjunction with that defense.
Okay. All right.
Not accident, as they want to allege.
Okay.
Okay, James, let me ask you, if they're laughing, if she says they're laughing when she zipped him in, how does that equal self-defense? Is that inconsistent?
Well, like I said in court, the video is only 2 minutes long that Sarah recorded of George in the suitcase. So no one but Sarah knows what happened prior to reported, and no one but Sarah knows what happened. Turned off the video. So her to testify to and explain what happened.
All right, James Owens and Frank Bankowitz staying with us. Still to come. Was there a history of domestic violence?
Sometimes I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. I'm afraid of it.
Breeze Drive, Spring Village subdivision.
I'm afraid of his family.
One of the most successful true crime TV shows ever.
This is crazy.
Now has a new home on America's original true crime obsession, 48 Hours on Court TV. Coming up next on Court TV.
Sarah Boone is charged with second-degree murder after her boyfriend suffocated inside of a suitcase.
Sarah, I can't breathe, babe. I thought he was okay.
The Suitcase murder trial. Live coverage starting October 7th on Court TV.
Sometimes I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. I'm afraid of it.
Breeze Drive, Spring Village subdivision.
I'm afraid of his family.
Female, black dress, tan shirt, -10.
My son can't come over here because he's here.
That's body camera video from a different incident involving Sarah Boone and George Torres. And you hear some fear in the voice of Sarah Boone there. I want to go back now to the suitcase video because I want you to listen closely to what Sarah Boone is saying.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
You.
Sarah.
You.
Sarah.
Stupid.
Sarah.
That's my name. Don't wear it up.
Sarah. I can't breathe, babe. Seriously.
Yeah, that's when you do and you choke me.
This is for everything. That's what you get when you choke me. It brings me to my next question, which I think will be a major issue in this case. Was there a history of domestic violence? Sarah Boone, George Torres. Still with me, Sarah Boone's new attorney, James Owens, and her former attorney, Frank Bankowitz. Before we talk about this, I want to show one more video from another domestic violence incident. This one's from September 4th of 2019.
George was hiding in the bathtub upstairs. Okay?
Yes.
So, he gave me his side of things. I need you to give me your side of things in person right here. I know we kind of talked on the phone, but I need you to tell me what happened tonight. So what happened?
Okay, well, pardon my language, because it's not me. I was called a and
Okay.
And I'm not a mother to my son.
Okay.
All the while, nonetheless, I was sleeping before that.
Okay. So you were woken up to him calling you names. So you're saying?
I thought that I'm like, feed the beast, go outside and smoke a cigarette with him.
Okay.
Try to calm things down. Well, the whole time I was there saying nothing. Nothing. I was called names.
Okay. So you guys were smoking a cigarette, and he was calling you names, being verbally aggressive with you. Verbally abusive.
Before that, where I'm like, I don't want to get hit anymore. So I'm just going to go downstairs and smoke a cigarette with him to try to calm him down.
Okay. So you're saying, okay, I'm trying to get a timeline of things. So start from the beginning and give me the timeline.
Was that I was asleep?
I don't, not literal time, but in a reference of incidents, how they occurred tonight.
I was asleep, and again, he comes in and wakes me up.
He wakes you up. Okay.
He's out of sorts.
Okay.
So I'm trying to figure things out.
Okay.
Where it's like, don't make it worse. Just go downstairs with him. Because he gets mad at me because I go to sleep.
Okay.
I go downstairs, smoke a cigarette. The whole time I'm being belittled.
Okay.
Pardon me for saying talk about.
Okay. Frank Bankowitz, is there a history of domestic violence in this relationship? And if so, how serious?
Absolutely. There's a long history of domestic violence, and I'm sure all of that's going to come out or has already come out with regard to the battered spouse defense. That's one of the principal elements, is to establish a history of abuse. And there was a long history of abuse in this case, history of hospitalizations, history of broken bones, history of arrests. It's a classic situation of battered spouse syndrome, in my opinion.
I want to put this up on the screen. Sarah stated, this is June 15th, 2019. She was beaten up, face, head, legs, and arms. She stated that she begged George to stop, and George stated, "You're going to die." Sarah stated that George punched her in the head, flung her off the bed. Sarah stated this incident occurred due to George being upset about Sarah speaking to a male. James Owens, this history that we are uncovering here, is the jury going to see and hear about this history?
Yes. The filed a notice of intent to rely on, and in the notice and in the amended notice, we alleged that there were prior incidences of abuse, and Dr. Julie Harper to testify on that issue. So yes, there is corroboration in the terms of a prior history of George and emotionally and sexually abusing Sarah Boone.
Have there, and I'm looking here at George's arrest history. It looks like June 15th, arrested for battery. June 18th, arrested for violation of pretrial release, making contact with Sarah when he wasn't supposed to. August 28th, 2019, a battery arrest. September 4th, arrested for battery. Is all of this connected to Sarah, or are there other cases that are out there? And do you expect the jury to hear the history of Jorge Torres, James?
Yes, I believe those instances relate to the domestic George and Sarah, and I believe there is other incidences. As far as how much comes in, there are rules that come into play in the evidence.
Okay.
I have to make some decisions about that.
James, I hate to cut you off, but we are out of time. James Owens, we appreciate it. Frank Bankowitz, thank you both so much. One of the biggest mysteries surrounding this case has been, when will this trial happen? Sarah Boone on lawyer number 9, but believe it or not, it looks like this time it will happen. We'll see the trial right here on Court TV. The question is, what will the jury say at the end of all of this? I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.